Hello guys, today I'm going to be doing a video on Days Gone using the RTX 3080. Starting it off, we're going to be playing the game at 1080p on the low preset. These are our settings. Brightness full 100%, field of view 70. Everything is left to its default. Now let's jump into it. Starting it off with 1080p on the low settings, we are getting CPU bottleneck. Whoa, watch it. This guy's shooting at me. Sitting in the 80% usage on GPU, it's not bad. And normally open world games are pretty CPU intensive, so I'm not really surprised that we are getting bottlenecked here. I'm not going to be spending too much time on the lower presets since we are running at 3080 and there's really no reason for us to be running these story driven games at 1080p low settings. So let's go ahead and bring it up to playing at 1080p medium settings now. The game looks much better at medium. FPS was obviously decreased a little bit since some settings will be CPU ran as well. Let's boost, let's go.
Son of a bitch. Hit him.
That's it?
Hold up. He laid his bike down.
Once we actually entered into the bush, we are no longer CPU bottlenecked and GPU is pretty much maxed out, sitting at 91 to 94%. Whoa, I was looking at the overlay. FPS is in the 200s now as well. Just shoot him. Let's go ahead and push it up to the high preset.
Hold up. I want to search this
Alright, 1080p high settings. I gotta say that with each jump, with each preset that we go up, the game has a massive improvement to high quality as well. Normally in games, there's a slight improvement with each preset, but in this game, it's a massive jump. Like everything looks far better than medium. I'm playing it low, there's no reflections, there's no shadows, it's very obvious that it's low settings. So far the high preset seems to be a really good balance between performance and quality. Alright, we're back on the road. The game is running quite decently, we do get some stutters here and there. It wasn't happening before on foot, but for whatever reason the scene is causing us to get a couple of stutters here and there as well. FPS is a bit lower than what we had before. We were getting 220, 230 FPS at the can. Now we are falling below 200. We're sitting in the 190s to the low 200s as well. Hopefully the stuttering goes away. And hopefully it's not because we're playing at high settings. It might be a game engine thing. Our frame rate is too high up and it starts to stutter. Maybe if we cap the FPS, we'll fix it. This is definitely an issue with GTA 5, but I mean, obviously there's a different engine, so who knows. Let's get moving. Now obviously since we're inside of a tunnel, FPS is going to be a lot higher than normal. Oh, okay. Oh great, I shot the gun. I shot the car. Alarm went off. Can we disable this? Oh, we can. Nice.
Cut it out.
Disable the horn real quick. Nice. Yeah, since we're inside, FPS is going to be a lot higher than how it would be normally, so once we get outside, we'll see how it runs. Alright, let's go outside, finally, see how this runs. We're going to be in the 140s, 150s, I would guess.
Just saying, you need to get away from here.
Wow, 170, so it wasn't too different than the actual tunnel. Maybe a 30 FPS decrease.
We'll hit the road.
Hell yeah, brother.
Game does
Now
look
you're
fantastic
talking.
though at the very high preset. We are getting some micro stutters still though on this bike. Alright, jumping up to 440p low settings. The game looks much sharper compared to 1080p, but this low preset does not look good at all. It's lacking some very important things like reflection, shadows, and there's no vegetation either. There's no grass or anything like that. Very close to 200 FPS, sitting in the 180s to low 200s. But obviously we have plenty of headroom to go ahead and push the game up to high and even very high settings at 440p without actually having FPS issues. Alright, 440p medium settings. As you can see, the ground looks far better than 1080p. Than 440p low. FPS is a bit lower, sitting in the 160s to 190s. But obviously it's way more than enough for a game like this. I think the stuttering was an issue with the bike. With the bike cutscene. It wasn't a cutscene, it was like an actual event, but I wasn't driving. Hasn't happened since. But maybe once we get up to the very high preset again, it will start to act up on us. So I guess we'll see. Push the settings up to high settings, and And by the looks of it, I think 4K will be no trouble for us, to be honest. We're getting 158 FPS right now at 1440p high. I think 4K high we can easily get above 70.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It will obviously depend on the area that you're playing in, but I think on average you'll probably be fine with 4K high settings. Let's kill these guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Boom! I like the melee. I like the melee. Hit him over the head.
Incoming.
You're dead. The aiming's kind of whack. I don't like the circle crosshair.
Need this more than you.
Yoink! Oh my! Where did he come from? Oh my!
Mine now.
Mine now, yoink! Oh, let's go a sniper rifle without a scope. Now, so far, every Sony game that I've tested runs really well. Haven't had any issues with them in terms of their performance and how many options they give you in the graphical settings. So I kind of have high hopes for Spider-Man. Only 2 weeks away as well. And with Spider-Man we get ray tracing, I believe, as well, which we didn't have in any other games. That's made by Sony. I think anyway, I could be wrong. Alright, as soon as we enter this camp, FPS dropped down into the low 100s, even the 90s. So this area is very intensive. Playing the game at 4K low settings. We're pushing 120 FPS. So slightly higher than 1440p, very high settings. Because we were getting around 100 FPS in this camp.
Get a fair amount of trout. Lakes fed by snowmelt.
VRAM has dropped down to 6 gigs from 7.5. This will be interesting because we had a bunch of stutters on the bike before, so we get to actually see if it's going to happen again or if it was just a one-time thing in the intro.
No.
So far it's running really well though.
Burns, you stay there, you rest, okay? I'll be there as soon as I can.
Now in the previous section I did say that all the Sony games that I've tested have ran really well. It's not really fair because the only game that I tested at launch was God of War. Days Gone and Horizon Zero Dawn have had time to get patched, so maybe these games at launch weren't the best ports, but I think we'll be fine to go Spider-Man, either way. The game's running super well. We're getting around 100 to 120 FPS. Alright, 4K high settings. This is surprisingly running really well. We're getting 90 FPS on the bike. Almost 100. I was kind of expecting us to be at like 70 to 80 FPS at this point. Maybe not. Can't remember what I said at the start, but I gave a prediction for how I was going to run at 4K high. But it's running really well. It's not stuttering or anything like that at all. It only happened once in the intro. Hasn't really happened since. The aiming still feels fine when I was doing it before. Alright, final preset. 4K, very high settings, and getting 70 to 80 FPS, so only like a 20 FPS decrease, a 10 to 20 FPS decrease from the high settings, which is way less than I was expecting. We still have a 10 to 15 FPS headroom as well, in case of a heavy scene. And then at that point, we'll be falling to the 60s, which is still fine. But you can always go ahead and adjust the presets and balance them out so you get more frames out of the preset itself. VRAM is sitting at 7.3 gigs as well, which is very surprising because I was for sure expecting us to be at 9 gigs, or maybe we couldn't hit 10, but I was for sure thinking that we we're going to be at 9 gigabytes. Which is very close to our VRAM limit, since 4K is far more VRAM heavy than 1440p. But we're still holding 7.2 gigs, so we're fine there. Alright, I think I'll wrap up the video here, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a like, and a sub to the channel, I'd highly appreciate it. See you next time.